Welcome to the London Horror Movie Club. I'm horror writer Lauren Jane Barnett.
And I'm Chris Sapikowski, Lauren's older brother, and I've been watching horror movies since I was 8.
Join us as we talk about the wild, weird, and wonderful horror films set in England's eerie capital. Hi everyone, welcome back. And it's June. We have been watching Xtro, a sort of 1980s, very unusual British horror in which a man who has been abducted by aliens returns home, but something very sinister is going on. I am so excited to hear what Chris heard about this. I know we usually talk about the films we've been watching since first, but I just want to know, do you have like one quick word to be like, blah?
Uh,
What did you think?
I always like the word Bananalands.
Yes.
Like,
Bananaland. I
let's
love
go into
it.
the movie. We can talk about what we watched at the end. That's fine. Like, yeah, I knew nothing about this movie when we started watching it. Like, this first watch, hadn't heard of it. In fact, was looking for it and saw like it was so popular that they have like a 2, 3, and 4 maybe somewhere. But I did find the original and I started watching it, and I don't even know what I was watching. Like, I actually described it to somebody the other day because they asked me, "Oh, what's the podcast on this week or this month or whatever?" And I was like, "Oh, it's basically it's this movie." And I was trying to explain it, and I watched someone else's nightmare. Like, the feeling, that the uneasiness of like when you have a nightmare and then you wake up and you're like, that was really scary, but like weird and crazy. But then you're like, it's not really scary because like I was like, because you're in your nightmare. It's like you kind of knew it was a nightmare. Like, but that's what all those feelings was like the same thing I felt when I would watch that movie.
I love that description because I think very much the same thing. It feels like a proper almost out of body experience. It's like done
Mm-hmm.
filmed in a way that's really real, but everything that's happening is very surreal. And
Yep.
you just get confused and lost. And I love it. I'm so glad that you see
They
that.
do some Yeah, oh yeah, they do something in this movie as well. Like, so when I've watched so many horror movies that like it's always the joke between me and my buddy is like, do you want to feel something like something different that you haven't seen before that like kind of makes your skin crawl or like makes you feel uncomfortable or uneasy. And I can name the movies that like like not recent, but like in the last 10 years that have like made me like either paranoid or scared or like literally like, oh, I'm gonna turn the light on. Why not? It's just like a little bit creepy. This movie had something like that for me. And I don't know how they did it. And I think it's more special effects based, obviously. But when they would, okay, so basically the guy gets kidnapped by, or abducted is the correct word for UFOs, but he comes back, he's a skinwalker, and like he's gaining life through living organisms. And when they start sucking the life out of people, the way the skin like shrinks because the fluids leaving the body and just like the skin popping up, and like it was gross and I loved it.
Yes. It is such a it's not what you think of as body horror. You won't say, oh, David Cronenberg, but it is such a body horror movie. There are these great scenes, like you said, like with the feeding off his son. At one point, he sort of
Hmm.
feeds and you see, like Chris said, the skin moving and pulsating. And I wanted to know in general that what you do you think the special effects hold up? Because I still think they do, but I don't know if that's because I really like the movie.
I don't know. I mean, I think they probably hold up. I mean, I'm not the best judge of that, but what I will say is it made me have an emotion while watching it, right? So like I was like, that is gross. That you could almost see like that would be the way it is. And I haven't seen that done in a lot of other movies. Like vampire movies, they bite and you're like, I think Interview with the Vampire maybe did a little bit more of like when they're biting and turning people into vampires. They showed that, but like a lot of those, it's a cutaway scene, right? Like, oh, they're sucking the life out of the person and they cut away. And they're just showing it. And I found myself watching it being like, all right, I've kind of seen enough of this. Like, I know what they're doing. Like, move on. But like, they're showing it. So, I mean, I think it stands up. I mean, the movie is very, very early 80s.
Yeah.
Right? There's no getting around that. And it's just the way it is. I mean, even the character, I mean, just everything screams 80s. But like that, I think if you did that today, you would probably it would keep it in the movie, right? Like I think it does hold up. And it's pretty amazing that they did that back in the 80s, early 80s.
Yeah, seriously, it's surprisingly good, I think. Out of curiosity, were those then the scariest moments for you? Like the ones that made you most, was it the feeding and stuff like that?
Those were like the moments that like emitted like or basically gave me like a reaction, like a physical, like where I was like uncomfortable watching it, where like you kind of shift in your chair a bit. That and then I don't think I've ever said I someday hope to see a grown man birthed through a birthing canal. Um,
Oh,
I don't think I ever wanted to see that, but I saw it. I've seen it, and that was I squirmed a little bit in my chair for like so many reasons.
that's for me. That's my scariest scene in the movie. Yes, it's also bodily horror. It's gross, but I'm a woman. So like for people watching this scene, what happens is you see a woman, she gets attacked by the alien and effectively raped. We don't see
Mhm.
the like how he impregnates her, but he does. She wakes up from this attack and she looks sort of really shaken and stuff, but sort of fine. And she's walking to the kitchen, presumably to get water. She's upset or something. And as she does, her body keeps like jolting, and it gets over the course of 20 steps. She's this massive pregnancy because this is a full grown man that's happening, and her body is like breaking to create it. And she's going, whoa.
So gross.
And I swear, I do not mean to be like too graphic, but I swear my like ovaries hurt watching this as a woman. It was nightmare. And then she collapses onto the floor with this massive belly, bigger than she is. And as you said, you then see her birth a fully grown man, and of
A
course
fully yeah.
it kills her. As
Right.
a woman,
Obviously.
terrifying. Terrifying. That's like the night. There's a reason I don't have children, and that, if anything, is like, yes, tick, no babies please. That's terrifying.
It was terrifying. Well, and that's the thing, like, so like most movies I feel would be like, okay, they're good. So we got the concept, grown man's like this is how the skinwalker, or I mean, that's just for whatever reason, that's what I was calling him. Because it's like you can kind of tell he's walking backwards when he comes back, because like this like lands the UFO kind of comes back in the woods, and there's like this like younger yuppie couple driving, and then they like that's how they introduce the alien back into society. So he like already like gets these two people, which was good kills. Like it's kind of like stalking prey, and like but then he has to become a human, which changes the way he stalks the prey, right? And they would have normally just been like the woman, they'd be like, oh, and then there's just stomach, he's like bursts out of the stomach. No, they went the full birth route.
Yep.
And it worked because I was like, oh God. I mean, but like I couldn't stop watching, but I was like, oh, like, and then I really kind of want to see the outtakes. Like, I know they didn't do those in the 80s, but like, it kind of reminded me of Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura Part 2 when he's climbing out of the fake rhinoceros's butthole.
Yes.
Like, that's the exit point,
And
and
it's
he's
like
like,
stretches.
yeah, that's the same. Imagine that in a serious role, and that's what you have in Xtro. But you also realize that it's not a fake rhinoceros; it's a real woman who's like screaming at the same time. And there's like skin. The way they did it was just it was crazy. But that's what that movie was, though. It was just to me, it was just crazy, and they were just like, "What can we do now?" Because what was the nightmare part where I was kind of watching was the toys coming to life. So
Um,
he changes his kid into one of them, right? Am I following the movie right?
I'm pretty sure it's more like he's like part them because he's still part the little kid. But
Right.
yes.
Okay. Okay. So he's still okay, but he has like the powers of them, and the dad definitely like fed off of him. So he's like half vampire, like if it was a vampire movie. Like he's still so he's part of that. He has those powers, and he doesn't like different people. One of them being like some crazy old lady downstairs, which I imagine every London apartment complex has. Like the woman who like she just the nosy one who's always out, knows who's coming in, who's coming out, and he sends her his toys to go kill her.
That was
I
one of
was
my
like,
favorite kills. Is there's the toy soldier is who he decides to get, and it's they just for people who this is a spoiler, but it was the 80s. It's he has this toy soldier, but then when he brings them to life in his mind, they aren't like living toys. They're people, but behaving like toys. So it's like this
mhm.
6 foot tall guy behaving like a wind up robot, and there's something about that scene where he kills her on the sofa that's so eerie, and that was one of my favorite kills. Was what
Kills her, and then also the was it the clown that they kept flashing to? So I kind of had like it was like that's why it was like nightmares. Like not really the clown like doing all this stuff, but then they'd flash to him like laughing because the kid had this like I see it in a lot of English movies. I've never once seen it in America or an American movie. So maybe this is an English thing, but like it's like a circus tent and a merry-go-round kind of in it's like the nightlight, right? But it flashes up on the walls like the clown and the tiger and all that. So like they come to life.
Yeah.
And like I said, no spoilers, because if you didn't watch it in the last 40 years, you probably aren't going to watch it unless you listen to here and you're really dying to see a grown man birthed. But yeah, it was crazy. Like the clown was crazy. Like the rubber hammer still made it like it's a toy
Yeah. Oh my
because
God. Yeah.
it's big, but it's still a rubber hammer. So like it's not like the hammer turns real all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And did I catch who who's the girl, the nanny? She's more famous than I'm thinking she
Oh
is.
my God. Yeah. So it's Miriam Dabo or Diabo. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but she was a Bond girl. She was a Bond girl, and
Oh,
she's
okay.
in other stuff. She's in Dorian Gray, the like recent remake that they did, and I
Okay.
think it was like 2009 or something like that. And then
Yeah.
she's also in oh, what was it called? Oh, Tales from the Crypt. She's also in Tales from the Crypt.
Oh,
So
I've
she's super
I
famous.
recognize her. Yeah.
Yeah, Freddie, and I think it's called The Living Daylights. It's one of the Timothy Dalton ones, and she plays like a cellist, I think it is, or a
Oh,
violinist,
okay.
and
Yep.
that's
Okay.
her.
So Russian cellist or
Yeah,
Eastern Bloc
exactly.
cellist. Yeah. Okay. I think I know who you're talking about. She definitely looked familiar the whole way through, and she was definitely the scream like or the horror movie like the good looking because they made sure to have scenes with her and her boyfriend which bring nothing to the storyline of the movie except that she has another life, which they didn't really follow on anyway, anyways. But I was like, eh, I liked that scene where her boyfriend gets attacked by the soldier and the tank, the toy tank.
Yeah. Oh God, the toy tank is brilliant. It has. Do you remember the Robin Williams film Toys?
I thought about that movie multiple times during when the toys were up. I was like, that movie could have turned into a horror movie easily.
Right? I was just thinking it had the same tension, but like the way they wrote it, it was much less creepy. Whereas when you see it in the context of Xtro, it's a nightmare. Like you said, it's genuinely like
Yeah,
appalling the whole time. And I know what you mean. So she's Marion Dow was obviously like the scream queen, and they do this amazing thing that I think is like necessary in all British horror since the 70s. Is you have the plot, and then you have scenes of women without tops and mostly bush, and that is what's happening. It's interspliced into this film. So if anybody hasn't seen Extra, and that's your thing, you get a lot for a very little period of time.
which brings absolutely what do they call it now? Gratuitous nudity. Like it's
Yeah.
just like it really doesn't. You hear all these actresses like, what does it bring anything to the part? That definitely didn't. But she's like, oh, I want to be in this movie, and sure, we can have two seats. I'll offer you two seats. They probably fought for three. She was like, nope, I'm good for two, but I want to have talking lines. Yeah, it was weird. But I mean, yeah, she was. I recognized her. Like, and I was like, oh, well, that's weird. Like, she definitely looked like somebody else, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't recognize the other actors necessarily. Like when we watched Frenzy, there were actors that I'm like, I know him, or you like see like is it, in American Werewolf, the taxi driver, like you're like, oh, that's so and so. And this movie, I was like, I don't know, but it was like it definitely grasped me from the beginning because when the aliens comes a very cool scene, like it because it like with the black and then there's like the light and they're
Mm.
on the farm, and so they did a really good job for it being an 80s flick. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
actually surprised I hadn't heard of it before.
It's really popular over here. I'm not sure why it didn't make it to America. I think it was sold as like the British Alien, which obviously it has almost nothing in common with. So I think
No.
maybe it was missold. But like weirdly, you're right, to an American, the stars won't seem like much at all because it's got that very sort of 80s everyday man, everyday person
Yep.
cast. But actually, like the cast is pretty cool. I've got I had to write down their proper names because I'm gonna forget them. But the guy who played Sam, who's
Okay.
Philip Sayer, he's in The Hunger, which is another great. It's got David Bowie in it, and Susan Sarandon's another
Oh,
great
okay.
vampire movie. And he's in a couple other things. What else is he in? I did write this down. Oh yeah, he's in Slayground. So he's in like a few horror movies, but he died shortly after this movie, so he didn't end up having like a huge expansive
A ton.
career.
Okay.
And so you have like little bits of people. The guy who played Tony, the young boy who played Tony, did a couple other things later, but obviously as an adult, so looks very different. But there's like little minor kind of horror celebrities, obviously married Davo, and but it is, the cast looks in that nice 80s way, like Hellraiser, like
Oh, it
Creators,
brings
like
more to it, right?
real people. Yeah, I think it makes
Yeah.
it almost, especially because, as you say, this film goes really far, it makes it seem almost more credible and so more creepy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like you can't get away with certain things when you bring high-end stars, like, together. That's why they're really good for, like, rom-coms where, like, "We've bought, 18 of the biggest stars." Like, "Great. There's gonna do nothing of substance." Like, um, but when you have a horror movie like that, you it's kind of open when it's like, we have actors, they're good actors. The acting was actually, I thought, was really well done. For what it was, for it being like an alien, like it's hard to like get your mindset like, okay, there's an alien and it comes back because there's a scene where like the wife who had for all intents and purposes like had moved on, right? She's with Sam now.
Yeah.
Um and but then they go back to the farmhouse where he was abducted, where they thought he just had ran off, like on the family. And then they start like getting back together, but then his like body starts shedding in the middle of the intercourse because it's an 80s movie, so we needed that scene, like, and so yeah, it's just I don't think you get that when if you picked up, like here's four actors that we already know, but it did felt more real to me, I guess, because it could be like anybody, where like it doesn't, you're almost watching this happen to other people as opposed to like people acting it out for you. Maybe is a weird way to say it.
Yeah, I always feel like, you can tell me whether you think this is fair, but I always feel like the 80s did a lot more of that anyway. It was always sort of everyman. It was very everyday people. I always felt like 80s horror
Hmm.
movies. Yeah. So I think it's part
I
of
think
that.
also the budgets weren't there, right? So like it's hard to go and get like somebody who has made a name for themselves, and then then it's like, how do you pay for that? And you want to, you want the special effects. Like, what's more important? Obviously, story is the most important thing when telling a ghost story or a horror story. Like, you want the story to be pretty solid. You also want the effects to be there. Unless you go the complete opposite way of never really, like M. Night Shyamalan. Is that, yeah, that's how I say it. Shyamalan. But he's I don't know how to say his last name,
I
but
think it's Shyamalan.
he does a lot of good job with, like, you don't really see a whole lot. Like in Signs was one where like you saw the alien like three times, but it's like more scary before. But like if you're gonna show the aliens, you're gonna show the monsters, you want the effects to be good. So then it's like actors is like, you can be a fine actor. Maybe you haven't had, you haven't been brought in millions at the box office, but you could still be good for a role. You could still be a good actor. So it doesn't mean anything. And so you're just seeing people you haven't seen before. It's,
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And I liked that with the locations too, because it is a London horror movie, and set, the farmhouse, it's obviously not in London, but everything else is in sort of near Victoria. And so it's not even
okay.
like famous London. It's sort of it's those weird spaces in between like Victoria Station and then Buckingham Palace. So nobody really lives there, but people do because there's apartment blocks. So it's not even suburban. It's got this very strange other world city feel, but at the same time, it's kind of how most people in London live. It's just a apartment block somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think we kind of chatted about that. Like, one of the questions we try to answer: is it London? Is it not London? Like, is London a character in it? Obviously not. Like, that movie could probably be Leeds. It could be Manchester. It could be wherever. But isn't that how most people? Not everybody like wakes up in the morning in London and open your blinds and you're like stretching and looking at Buckingham Palace or looking at the B is it BT Tower or whatever. Like, you're
Yeah.
not seeing like these symbols that everyone else has seen before. You're just living there and you live around, other apartments.
Yeah. It's
So
very
yeah, it makes perfect
everyday.
sense. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
think it is London, right? I mean, it felt London to me. I mean,
You get a
it
red
felt it felt
bus. You get the
British.
red buses every now and then.
Well, they got to throw in the red bus.
That's London. There you go.
Yeah, they got
That's
to throw in a red. That's the telltale sign that you're in London.
exactly, you need a red bus. That's something that you made a really good point. Does it feel at least British? Because I think it
Yes,
does. Okay. What do you
yeah.
think makes it so British? other than the accents.
Oh, well, then no, it could have been anything. I'm just joking. No, just joking. No, it did it feel British? I feel like the way they tell the story, the way that I mean, obviously the actors and the driving is on the other side and stuff like that, but like the fact that like nobody's rushing to the cars, like when they like go out to look for someone, I don't know. And maybe it's just because I don't also live in a huge city in America, but like if I'm gonna go look, like our dog ran, our puppy had got out through the backyard, our fence. No big deal. Like it happens when you have puppies. But like I went and got in my car and started driving in the neighborhood, and everybody else is like on foot, like walking through there. And I'm like, well, that's dumb because yes, if she's back there, it's great. But if she runs out here, I'm not gonna walk like 3 miles. I'm not gonna catch up to the dog. But like they got out of the apartment, and it always feels like when I watch like stuff from in London, especially, it's like now we're running and then we're gonna just like run down the road, and it makes more sense because they're not in the suburbs.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be more time to try and find the car and get around than
Yeah,
it would
or a
be to run after the
taxi or
kid.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, the acting, the driving, and the big red bus, and the accents do it as well. But yeah, it just also like I just think of like in London, everyone walks.
Yeah.
So like I'm just like, yeah, that's it makes perfect sense that they're just like we're gonna go run after our kid who went missing. Their kid goes missing, and then the dad's all Tony, and then the dad
Yeah, Sam.
Sam. They're having their own like little part of the story. The mom comes home, can't find him. They're like running after him. No cars, no, they run past cars, but like they're just like run past a little fountain that they keep seeing. Seemed like a nice building in London.
Yeah, it is really pretty. Actually, it's still there. If anybody wants to go by Victoria Embankment, it's still there, which is
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
But yeah, I one of the things I always think is British, but maybe it doesn't translate. It's some of the stuff is kind of tongue in cheek, like the way they talk to
Okay.
each other and stuff is it feels very British. For example, so like you said, there's kind of a love triangle. The wife's moved on a bit, but then Sam returns and she's kind of still interested in him, but then she's dating this other guy who's named Joe, and a lot of like the side comments they make to each other, like for example, Joe's a photographer, and at the start we see them working together and he's doing like fashion shoots, and then he gets pissed off at Sam getting all his attention, and so she comes and visits him and he's doing like a naughty shoot, and she's like, I thought you were done with that. I don't know, that seemed very British to me. What do you think?
I didn't see it as British, but I don't see the British talk all the time. I mean, I did catch that where she was like, you could tell it was starting to turn. He was basically had moved in. He was the new guy, and he was trying to get them to kind of move on from the dad, right? Like he was like trying to associate with this boy who knew the dad was coming back. Like at some point, the dad's coming back. He's a young boy. The mom had kind of already learned on it because like they're in the same bed. They're living together by all. But as soon as he came back, everything changed. So, but I just saw that. I just felt like, okay, well, that was just a relationship. I didn't see it as British, but it's also I don't
It's funny to me,
see
I
how.
would think Americans would like fight about it. It would be all like emotions out in the open. And like the British way
Yeah.
of being passive aggressive was just sort of like, well, I'm going to take photographs of naked ladies now. So,
Yeah, so I see that now. Like as we're talking about it, like I definitely could see like because we've talked. I mean, just in joking, but like the passive aggressiveness of like how am I going to get back at this person? We're like, yeah, we Americans are going to go on Jerry Springer, and then it's going to be like, and we have this guest coming out. It's your old husband, and then like there's like a fight and chairs get thrown. So yeah, we do it a little bit louder in America, maybe.
that being said, there was a moment where I actually had to ask a friend if it made sense or if it was for an American audience. Because at the beginning, with the when the alien comes down and he breaks into the farmhouse with the woman, the one who gives birth
Mhm.
to him, she's got a gun. She takes out like a shotgun, and
I
I
noticed that.
actually had to be like, is that for American audiences? Would that be reasonable? And of course he had to tell me, he was like, well, yes, if you're in farm country in Britain, you might have a gun just because general protection and wolves and stuff. But I didn't, well, not wolves, but you know what I mean, foxes and things. But yeah,
Oh, I was just
I
saying
thought,
wild animals. Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah, but that was a moment where I was like, oh gosh, that doesn't seem British to me. But that's because I've been living in a city and no one has guns in the city.
See, that's very strange that you said that because I did notice the gun first and foremost because you don't see them a lot in British movies
Mhm.
or British life in general. But then I think about it and I'm like, well, we did Cockneys vs Zombies. There was a lot of guns in that.
Oh yeah.
And then like the other movies that I watched, like I watched the movie one point in my life, Legends, which is about the Krays, right? So I'm like, well, there's a lot of guns in the Krays. And so like, but I understand that like in everyday, like if you saw someone on a news holding a gun, it would be a big story. Like if you just turn on the news tonight, someone's holding a gun, they have a video, like news camera, like someone took someone hostage with a gun, that would be huge.
Yeah.
Where that could be a celebration video. That could be I mean, I've seen videos now where they do the gender reveal for kids where like the parents have like shot with guns, like shotguns. I mean, so in America, it's a little different. I remember when you brought you brought a friend over from England one time and we were at Dick's Sporting Goods at the time. And it was just wall of shotguns and stuff. And they were like, what, like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, makes sense.
Oh
But
yeah, she was completely freaked out when she
freaked
found
out.
out that you could just get them at the supermarket.
Yeah, because you got groceries in one aisle, you walk to the end of the aisles, and then there's the guns and the sporting goods. So it is different. I mean, I guess I don't look at guns as negatively as the British culture, but I did notice it in the movie. I was like, the single woman in a house by herself, and she has a gun and is comfortable enough to use it.
Yeah, I was confused by that. It threw me. That being said, when the flip side, something that seems really common to me is the creepy child. Is so like you said earlier, Tony the
I love a
kid,
creepy child. I love a
he's
creepy
creepy.
child.
That's in everything. I think that's like, if you think about it, I was thinking about all the horror, Japanese horror has like the creepy schoolgirls and the creepy
Yep.
Mexican horror has the creepy young boys, and we love creepy children. What is it about creepy children?
Because they are creepy. No, I'm not joking. I'm joking.
How
No,
are
I
your
mean, isn't it?
kids?
But isn't it creepy? I was almost asleep last night, and a child walked into my room and thought, I didn't realize you were asleep. I was scared to death. Why are you standing next to me?
That is creepy.
Yeah. So no, I think it comes down to, I mean, I guess in my thought is kids are kind of innocent because like they don't know anything, right? So like everything they've learned, you're putting kind of in front of them for a certain amount of time. And then they go to school and you start seeing them learn from other people and other things. But they're pretty innocent. I mean, they ask like very I have like the worst vocabulary, so I apologize. But they ask like innocent questions and they're very, they don't understand how certain things work because they don't look at it like the full way. And so when you see like a child that knows a little bit and you're like, well, why would they know that? It's like that's creepy. Or the way
Mm.
that if they act a certain way and you're just like they can be creepy because they're not like full humans yet. Like they don't have like the personalities and they haven't been through certain different social settings and like those things you do as you grow up and you learn from. So when they're creepy, it's great because they're already like you could make a whole army of creepy kids. If you just get to them early enough, you could make a whole army of creepy kids.
That's the funny thing from my perspective. So I don't have kids, but I taught, and I taught sort of 8-year-olds, that kind of age, and they I'm sure they're very innocent. I don't think they mean anything, but they don't also have any of those like social filters in place to know what's
Right.
not okay to do. And so they will like stab someone because they didn't do something because they think, oh, well, I'm upset and I'm gonna stab you. And that's like they've got sort of like an animalistic thing, which
Yeah.
doesn't, in
Biting.
my
Biting is
opinion,
huge at like that 2-year-old, 3-year-old stage.
yeah, they kind of have a wild animal thing as well, which weirdly is the opposite of innocent, but kind of the two combined. You're right.
Innocent might not be the right word for it, but yeah, but it's just they have like their minds. But also, you know what's creepy and maybe not scary about them is if you're walking down a street, you're coming back from the pub or coming back from, get off the train, you're walking and there's someone following you. You hear footsteps. You turn the corner, following you. You start getting a little nervous, right? You look back. If it's a full-grown man, let's just call it me walking behind you. You didn't know me. I'm big 6'3". You're immediately going to be like your heart's going to be beating really fast. You're like, oh god, what's going on? And it could be nothing. I could just be like going the same way you're going, but you're already going to be there. If you see an 8-year-old kid, it's creepy as hell But are you really scared? I mean, it's like an 8-year-old kid. Like, is he really gonna do anything to you? We saw a baby be punted when we watched Cockney
It's
vs.
true.
Zombies. So, like, we know we can get away from children so that the creepiness is how they can be scary.
Yeah. This is weird though. So like you're absolutely right. And funnily enough, and totally unintentionally, I watched in the interim between the last show and this one, I watched Cooties. The
Did you love it?
Yes, I loved Cooties. I loved it. It's the Elijah Wood. For anyone who doesn't know, Chris mentioned it on a previous podcast. Tony, my partner, he mentioned it, and he had me see it. And it's these school teachers get trapped in the school with the kids who've got some sort of almost zombie like virus, and it was the same thing. It was, you have these teachers who would normally be able to like yell at these kids, and like the kids don't kind of care, but they're in control, and then all of a sudden the kids are in control of everything and just eating these teachers and like terrifying the life out of.
So great.
It's so creepy, but it's also so funny.
It is so good. It is so, like zombie kids, man. It's a
Yeah,
whole market out there, zombie kids.
yeah, we need way more of this. Cockneys versus Zombies and Cooties are the only two I can think of that have zombie children. We need way more zombie children.
There's another movie I'm blanking on right now that you need to watch, and I don't think it's
Okay.
zombie children. I think it's zombie parents. But like they do the same thing when they're coming to get the kids, if the parents are getting bad. But I'll have to bring that up at a different time. It has Nick Cage in it. It's good.
Oh, cool. Because yeah, I just also saw Evil Dead Rise, and that's the mom goes kind of, she gets
Yeah.
possessed, so she's not a zombie, but she goes weird.
Well, okay, so we've talked about extra. We're talking about things that you've seen. So Evil Dead Rise, we were very excited about the preview. What did you were let down?
I
That's what I'm
was,
seeing.
yeah, I really, really wanted to love it because I love the Evil Dead franchise anyway. But I liked the idea because you have quite a lot of the Evil Dead stuff is Cabin in the Woods. It's out, and I
Yep.
liked that this is city high rise. And I thought that's so cool. It's gonna have a lot of the same kind of like wild stuff, and it has callback moments, things you see an eyeball get like shot into someone's
Mhm.
mouth, Evil Dead 2, and you have the camera perspective weaving through the city to like getting to her in the same way you have it weaving through the woods to get to Ash. And it just other than that though, it's just a person trying to get into the rooms of a house. It's a bit samey. You've seen this all before. Locked
Okay.
building, someone's trying to get into the locked building. They could or could not be possessed, and it kind of didn't matter. Quite a lot of it's like banging on the door or seeing
Right.
them through the keyhole and being like, oh my God.
Could
Eh,
be anybody. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's some good special effects there, and it's not the world's worst movie. It's not like you're sitting there watching it going, "Oh my God, I'm gonna fall asleep." But it's kind of samey, and so I was really
Okay.
disappointed because I wanted it to be different. So
I
you
think you
might still enjoy it, but
okay.
I
I think
didn't.
you're gonna hate my suggestion for the next month then, but okay.
No, no, there's nothing wrong
No,
with that
no, it's
kind
fine.
of
It's
movie.
totally fine. I'm just saying, but when you say samey, and I'll explain that when we get to like what I'm picking, because I had a thought process behind that. But that's interesting. So yeah, I want to see it, but at the same time, like everybody that's watching it is telling me like they're just not glowing. Like I don't care what reviews people like the papers say or like the famous people's, like or famous review sites. I don't care about that. If it's people that like I judge your opinion on it, Tony's opinion on it, if I
Yeah,
see him write about something, or like my boss, like his opinion on horror movies, like I will go watch them because I'm like, okay, I know where their mind is at, and so like I will enjoy this. Like there's movies that no one likes that I like. I mean, that goes. It's like, oh, that
yeah,
was great. Extra is a perfect example. It was not a huge box office
yeah. But I have a
smashing
soft spot.
success. It's popular, yeah, but I enjoyed it. I'm very happy that I watched it. If you want to watch it in America, like it's on YouTube for free, which is great. Like I love how some of the older movies can be just seen for free on YouTube. But
Yeah. No, totally. It deserves a wider audience. But what did
yeah.
you see? Because I've now
Oh,
gotten to
okay.
talk about two of mine. What did you get to see?
Well, and I didn't watch a whole lot of, I haven't watched a whole lot of movies since the last time. Just life getting in the way of like things, and when you're sitting down and for me, the Stanley Cup playoffs was on, so like that took up a lot of the nighttime watching, movie watching time. But I watched one of my favorite television shows, and now that it's back, with its new season. I would say it's probably my favorite. It kind of teeters between two or three, but it's Black Mirror, and it's I think it's British. It's on Netflix, but I think it's also British, and it's like more like anthology stuff. So it's like different writers that will do their stories. But their new season came out, and it was absolutely fantastic. It's not, a lot in the beginning they do. Well, gosh, the very first episode of Black Mirror, if you're not familiar, the prime minister basically gets blackmailed into,
Having sex
I
with a
want to say
pig.
pig. That's right. Yes. And I was like, am I remembering this correctly, or am I pulling this out of something else? But it's like they hacked into this, and then there's like different hackings, and they do like there's an episode where you get credits of how good of a human being you are, and if you have the higher credits, the better human being you are. You can purchase more things, you get better jobs, you get, and then if you're not, you are kind of like low class. But this one season's more horror movie based, I feel.
Oh,
So it kind of threw me for a loop. I was going to watch it no matter what, and it kind of threw me for a loop where like there's some cool technological stuff, but at the root of some of these episodes is very just horror story.
I love
So
that.
if you don't want to watch Black Mirror, like you're like, I'm not getting into 6 seasons of anything, and you just want to, they're like little mini movies, right? So there is 2 episodes in there, particularly one's 40 some odd minutes and one's like an hour, 9 minutes. But this season, one's called Maisie, Masey, and I don't want to say anything about it because those are spoilers. That just came out like 2 weeks ago, I think. So, and then Demon 79 is, I will recommend that episode to anybody who likes horror movies. But it's a little British town. I don't know where it would be. Wouldn't recommend it necessarily for the London horror movie club, but yeah, London Demon 79 was excellent.
I love that. I really like Black
So
Mirror. I haven't seen the most recent season, but I really
yeah,
like Black Mirror, so I'm gonna watch
it's
those.
so
That's
well done. Yeah, and when that came out, I was like, that's what I'm going to be watching now, because really it's an hour episodes. I can get one done a night and then feel like I can still do everything else I need to get done. And yeah,
yeah.
and 6 episodes this season, I think 5 or 6. So
Oh, that's not bad as well. I like that. I loved when the first season came out. I remember I absolutely loved it, and it was because British seasons are shorter. It was like 10 episodes at most.
oh, I think that's, well, in America they're only showing 3.
Oh,
It's like the
maybe it
season
was
was
way
3 and
shorter.
then 3 and then 4. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I love how the British, but you also get hour and a half episodes.
maybe that's
So
why
they're
I think
making
it's
3
longer.
movies, right? It's not just a 30-minute, 30-minute with 15 minutes of commercials like we
Yeah,
do here.
yeah,
So,
but yeah, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to see it.
so I totally recommend that.
Awesome. And did you see anything that you wanted to watch? So have you seen any ads or anything you're like, "Ooh, I'm gonna need to see that."
No, I mean, we were actually just looking through movies last night, and as far as horror movies go, I have not really seen an ad recently of something coming out that I'm like, I got to see that.
Mm.
I feel like we're kind of in, I don't want to say like a flat period, but like I don't know. I don't know what. First of all, like movie watching's changed since COVID, right? So like things come out. I'm much more open to just being like, oh, like I watch Yellow Jackets, which is kind of horror. It's Showtime in the States, and it's about this girls that were like on a plane crash. I think we've talked about this before on the pod, but like that kind of gets my fix there. I'm waiting for something else good to come out.
Yeah.
And I will watch whatever. I think I sent you a meme the other day, like horror fans go through thousands of movies, just to get to that one where you're like, this is great. And
Yeah.
I will continue to do that. But I've actually been on a kick of watching, which is nostalgic for me, but like Urban Legend. And that was talking of, let's get all the actors that people know or that were famous at the time. So like that one had Joshua Jackson, and then I don't even know her name, but the Noxzema girl who was like in America on all the Noxzema commercials. So it was like that right after college and right after college, like all those are right now like on Tubi. So I'm like, let's watch this one. It kind of goes in the line of like, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and all the popular actors and actresses from that time frame.
Oh, cool. I love
So,
that.
but now I haven't seen anything new. Have you seen anything new that's coming out that you're looking forward to?
No, I was gonna say the same thing, which is why I kind of hoped you might have kind of jumped in there so I could get out of not having anything. No, but
Right.
I really have been trying hard to see stuff that I really should have seen already as someone who writes about horror. I've only ever seen, for example, Dario Argento, super famous, and everybody obviously loves him, and there's loads of references to him in things like Scream and stuff like that. I've only ever seen Suspiria and then recently Dark Glasses. So I want to try and see more of his films. So like you, I'm kind
Okay.
of going back in time, but this is stuff I really probably should have seen already.
Oh no, that makes sense. Well, God, there is so much out there. I mean, I'm noticing that, just from doing this podcast of like we talk about things and then it's like, oh, even when we're not on the pod, we'll talk about things. I'm like, how have I never seen that?
Yeah.
And then so I'll go back and watch that and it makes sense because like I'll be like, you get into those modes of like slashers. I'm gonna watch everything slasher. And then
Yeah.
it's like, how did I never see this before? This was made in 1988. But like, so
Exactly.
yeah, no, yeah, nothing new coming out where it's like, man, like when The Grudge came out or when like remember Ring,
Oh
is it
yeah.
Rings or Rings?
The
Ring?
Ring.
I don't know.
The
The
Ring was
Ring. Like that movie
everywhere.
was like, we're gonna go see that.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking forward to like finding those like little treasures of like this is a free movie. It came out in 2018, on Tubi or Netflix, not free, but like here's this movie, and I'm like, wow, where was I in 2018 that I missed this?
Yeah,
So
I do love that about streaming is that you end up having quite a lot of options. But if you're willing to take a punt, yeah, maybe it'll be terrible. But like you said, horror fans are used to that. We're fine, like who knows, whatever will happen.
100%.
And every now and then you find one that you just can't. Like Xtro, I didn't know it before I did the London Horror thing, and it is big here, but I didn't know it. And so when was talking to people, they're like, "How have you not seen Xtro?" And now anybody, I'm like, "Oh, you have to see Xtro."
It's if you like horror movies and if you can get past a bit of gore, right, or feeling uneasy, like Extra is definitely worth the watch. An hour and a half, but it's like a story that like you're not gonna. I don't think that was like where you were talking like samesies. Like it's a little bit unique, right? Like there's not a whole lot of it's a story that you can get. I thought the acting was good. There was no tongue sticking out via the potato. I'm gonna always go back
That's
to the
gonna be your
potato, the
favorite
potato
thing.
truck. Yeah, like come to think of it, I really like that movie now. I want to see more potato truck scenes. But yeah, no, Extra is great, and I would recommend it to people. But it is Bananalands is the only thing I can think of when I say it. It's like it's just be prepared to not be prepared through the entire thing.
Yes, I love that. To be fair, that's what I love in horror movies. I always use the word bonkers. Because if you do come across something every now and then where you're like, how did someone think of this? It's great because we watch so many movies where you sort of like you can guess the end, and not that they're bad, but you can like guess the ending, or you kind of know where stuff's going, or they're
Yeah.
playing with it. How amazing is it to come across a movie where like what were you smoking? Who are you? What happened to you in a former life? What has driven you to this moment?
Yes. I think that same thing you're saying is why I like Black Mirror so much.
Mm, love
Because
that.
a lot of times when you're watching Black Mirror, you're like, was not expecting that. Or like this took this turn. Or like when they do it, they're like, oh man, where was your brain when you thought this up to do this? And I like that. I like the creativity part of it, or the creative outlet for these writers and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely good. And I will recommend Extra to anybody that is I think can handle it. I mean, it's like I said, I could see recommending it to a bunch of people in the birthing scene alone would have them. They wouldn't talk to me anymore. They, they would start
Yeah.
scheduling, away from whenever I was scheduled to be someplace. They'd be like, "Oh, can't make it. Sorry." But yeah. If
I
you're
give
listening to
horror
this podcast, you probably will want to watch it because you like horror movies.
Exactly. I give talks to the WI, the Women's Institute here, which if anybody in America doesn't know Women's Institutes, like it's like a kind of charity thing, and women get together and talk about all sorts of things. But if anybody has seen Calendar Girls, it's women. That is the WI. Women get together, they sing Jerusalem, they learn about jam and crochet. And I occasionally give talks because like they're a little bit edgier now, and I do like women in horror film or like the horror of this area. I always avoid extra because I'm not about to tell a room full of women that they need to see that.
You need to see a movie where you're gonna. I'm here to tell you how to hurt your ovaries without physically hurting your
Yeah.
ovaries. Watch minute 61 in Extra.
I will never get asked back again ever.
Yep, nope. You got to know your audience, right? I've recommended. I don't remember what movie it was at the time, but I recommended a movie to a family I really like that's on Holden's hockey team, my son's hockey team, and the dad texted me halfway through them watching. He's like, "What the hell did you recommend us to watch?" And I was like, "Oh no, I failed miserably."
Oh my
It was one of those that I loved, and I was like, "This is so wacky and crazy. I think you guys will like it because we recommend stuff all the time." And then he like in the middle, because what the hell did you recommend?
God.
And I felt so bad. I
I
was
have
like,
to say, if you
"Oh,
think of what that is, please tell us in the next episode of this because I'm dying to know what this movie was now.
I will. I will find out and then bring it up. Make a note, bring it up, and I will find out. I can even go back through old texts and find out because it might not even been a horror movie, but it was just something I had recommended. But I will let you know. You can make a note to remind me, and I will
Excellent.
bring it up. But yeah, you got to know your audience when recommending things.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
what is new? I want to bring this up on the podcast. What is new for you going on? So you know your book is out. Um, it's selling. It
It
was
is.
it did really well on like the Amazon list of like requested or wanted books.
Yeah, it was the most requested book in Amazon for a while, and then it's in its first month, so it's only been officially out for a month. There were people who were able to pre-order it earlier, obviously, but like its official release was May. It's been out for a month, and it's sold more than 1,000 copies, which is really for an indie
Awesome.
press, really, really great. I got to give a
Good.
talk to the Dracula Society about it, which was
Ah,
awesome. I'm gonna say that for the rest of my life.
how many
Um,
people? How many? Question. Let's pause real. How many people are in the Dracula Society, or how many people did
so
you talk to?
So the talk was to 35 people, but in
Okay.
the end, 39 came because they had
Okay.
standing in the back, which was really lovely.
Can you give us a little background on the Dracula Society?
Yeah, so it is not everyone always asks if they all showed up in capes. They didn't. So they
I was gonna ask, was there any ones that you could be like, wait a minute, that looks like Nick Cage, or like that looks like that guy could actually be 800 years old?
I mean, I wish that would have been really cool. They're all
Yeah.
really lovely. They're basically people like us. So it
Okay.
started in 1973. So some people have been around since the beginning, and then there's like a huge range going all the way down to like late 20s up through
Okay.
70s, 80s, and it's all people who at the time it was started, it was theater people who wanted to like do theater shows with a better version of Dracula because they didn't
Okay.
like the way that Dracula was kind of being turned into especially in the 70s, kind of hacky and was
Yeah.
overdone and gothic and nonsense. So their whole thing is like, gritty true horror, and they've got their own like little book and stuff about
Okay.
proper Dracula. But it started with that, and it's basically just really big horror fans who like it
Awesome.
started out as Dracula. So I can if anybody, you can join the Dracula Society if you're in London. Just send them an email. It's awesome. They get together. They do London get-togethers regularly, and like people like me talk. I'm giving a walk for them later, but then they also do trips to like Whitby and really cool locations that are in Dracula, and they're like really social and really cool. It's amazing what they do.
Fun. Yeah, no, that's cool. You had told me about that. I was like, my first thought was same thing. It's like 18 men. They're all gonna be like 65 to 67, but really they're like 800, and it's gonna be like you're gonna be like going into like the what was the house in Harry Potter that like you're gonna show up and like this address doesn't exist, and then like this guy in the cane's gonna like knock on the floor, the wall's gonna go up, you're gonna go in this like secret cavern. So no, just a bunch of people that like really like horror movies and the Dracula movies, and that's how it started.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot of fun actually, and it's great because you meet all these people who some of them you know already because you're in the horror circuit, but you meet all these
Yeah,
people who just love horror. So you get to sit down and have dinner with a bunch of people and talk about horror movies for 2 hours. Couldn't have been cooler.
that's a pretty good night, I
Yeah,
would say.
it was great.
Uh, That's what we did without having to be invited. Like when I visit you, like we sit for 2 hours and we talk horror movies. So
Yeah, and now we record it so that you guys can
yeah.
join us. Like this, is this with more people?
Right, right. No, yeah, exactly. This is what we wanted this to be. It's like we're doing this anyways. Let's just put it out there. So
Exactly. I love that. I'm curious though what the
yes.
next one's gonna be because
Okay.
I usually know the film, and now I don't.
Nope, it was chosen yesterday. And the reason it was chosen yesterday, I mentioned, I'll give you the backstory of why I'm choosing this. You can completely, I'm letting all the listeners can know, you can X this idea as soon as I throw it out there. If you see it, you're like, we don't want to go down this road. Please let me know. So I've been watching Urban Legend. I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it kind of has those. It's just that like early 2000s feel. And we've done, we've done some old, we did, this one was 1982, and I was like, I want to try to do something more recent. The last one I picked, Limehouse Golem, wasn't like my favorite movie by any means, but it was also a period piece, right? So it was like back in like the 19th century, right? Did I get my centuries right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm gonna choose the movie. I believe it's called F.
F. Okay.
F. You haven't heard of this?
No.
Oh, I'm so excited. So you can't exit, and we might both hate it,
No
but
idea.
I was, I was sitting around yesterday, and I kind of like, I want to watch something new to me, but I also want to be London. So this is based in London. Oh, see, look at you. You're like, wait, what? Now, if this turns out to be London, Ontario, I apologize in advance. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, if this is in London, Kentucky, this is really going to be a problem. But no, it's school-based horror, and it's like that teen. It was like done in the 2000s. Let me just go, and I think I still have it. I think I still have it here on my IMDb, because I was looking yesterday, like looking through some movies, and I kind of narrow them down. So I'll write a movie out and be like, maybe, like what to pick, and then I'll kind of like look at it. And when I read this, I was like, I don't want to know anymore. I just want to, oh, come on, I lost it. But I just was like, let's do the movie F.
Awesome. I love that this is a movie I don't know. If anybody who's listening, I have an Excel spreadsheet of every horror movie with like a section in London. It doesn't even have to be the whole thing in London. And there's about 152. And so I love it when somebody has a new one for me, because I'm like, oh my God, I can add it to the Excel sheet. Like, I know it's a new movie. It's really rare after having researched it for like 4 years. It's really exciting.
Well, now that's why I'm like, when you were like, I was expecting you at least to be like, yeah, we're not doing that one. Because you were saying like with Evil Dead Rises, so it was kind of, I've seen it, and I feel like, excuse me, I feel like with this movie, it's kind of samesies as well, because like we've seen, like, yeah, F. It's for 2010. It's a horror movie. It's from Studio Canal,
Oh, okay.
which is
Yeah.
that's a British film,
Yeah.
whatever. A group of teachers must defend themselves from a gang of murderous hoodies who besiege a school after hours to gain revenge after a slight against one of their members.
And that fits with the whole, so I don't know if anybody out there knows about the hoodie horror movement thing, but in the early 2000s, it was Tony Blair was prime minister here, and he made this thing about ASBOs, people who are sort of antisocial behavior was considered now a crime, and he was aiming it at these teenagers who wore the hoodies, and it's that kind of thing. And there was this whole stream of hoodie, like Cherry Tree Lane from 2008, Heartless from 2007. It sounds like it's part of this hoodie horror movement, so I'm excited because we haven't talked about this yet. So I love that cultural moment, so I'm excited.
Oh, so maybe we can get into that. Yeah. I don't look at any of the reviews.
Okay.
I mean, well, like, so Rotten Tomatoes, which I do like Rotten Tomatoes reviews because it seems to be a little more audience score.
Yeah.
Those seem to be higher than like the IMDb scores. But I was like, let's give it a try. It's a newer movie. It's something, and if it's something you haven't seen, so it's a fresh watch for both of us.
Yeah,
might be interesting, and it could suck. And that's what being a horror movie fan is all about. Is sometimes they suck, and you just mark it down to like, won't watch it again.
Yep, love that. No problem. And it's good.
So we're good with the movie F.
I love it, and we've got a lot coming up for July as well, because we're still doing 4th of July special as well?
Okay, so we are going to do a 4th of July special. I don't think we've talked about this yet.
Oh, so Chris, tell us about the 4th of July
Yes.
special. We're changing it up here at the London Horror Movie Club.
Yes, we are changing it up just a little bit. And I'm going to make sure that I have the right wording of the movie because I'm not good at remembering things. But yes, we are going to do an American movie, and for 4th of July. And I understand that the 4th of July is the America gaining independence from Britain, where most of our audience is from. And I'm not trying to freak everybody out there, but I was like, hey, it's 4th of July. We're both from America. Why don't we do one movie that we can discuss? It's just an American movie. And I've chosen The Secret Window. And I've kind of chosen that because if you know Lauren, she's a horror writer and she does that. And this movie has Johnny Depp in it. And so it was like a main, movie in the theaters, but he's a horror writer. And so I thought it'd be interesting for you to watch that one, but it would also be like an American movie.
Cool. I love that. And I haven't I haven't seen it. So
Yep.
it's going to be a first watch for me as well, which is going to be really fun. I'm looking forward
Cool.
to Secret Window. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
And
So I got 2 picks then, Secret Window and F.
yes,
for
I'm
July.
excited. I'm loving that. And on top of that, we also, so this is gonna be packed. We also have an interview
Yes.
with Alex Churchard, which is great. He's it's another director interview. And for
Yes.
anyone who's over here in the States, he was just on the BBC. He was on Radio Essex as well for doing he's doing Video Shop Tales of Terror 2. I very fortunately got to die in space in that movie. And so I was on the BBC article as well, which was great fun. If you do see the article, you get to see me stabbed 4 times in the chest with like the special effects makeup. Is brilliant. But so we'll get a chance to talk to Alex. He's done loads of things, including the ice cream on the beach. That's the one that he's probably best known for. It won a few awards, including some really cool kills. So we'll get to talk about a lot of very fun stuff with that. And yeah, that's our next interview. And then we've got Danny Thompson, who's a Scream Queen, in August as well. So we've got a lot coming up.
We do. We're trying to give the podcast more interviews because those people are more interesting than us. Like, right? I mean, we like watching horror movies, but they're like the process of it is always fascinating to me. And I hope everyone that listens is like the Dan Brownlee interview. Like that was fun. That was
Bonkers.
that was
there we go.
Bonkers. Yeah, like it was great. I enjoyed it. I actually did go. I will take that back. I did go watch UK Haunts or Haunters.
Oh yeah,
his documentary.
Nice documentary, yeah.
Crazy, and it's a little too much for like I couldn't go do that stuff. Like that stuff still for some reason I don't like random people.
Oh yeah.
I don't like random people. I don't like random people touching me, and so like when I'm at those, it's so close because there's those scream factories, those haunts. It is horror, it is like very scary, and so I will go if I have to, if everyone's going, but it wouldn't be like on a Thursday. I'm like, what are we gonna do? It's around Halloween. Let's go do this. And that kind of showed me again why, because they do it so well. I'd rather watch it from a TV where I can be like, hey, I'm gonna go down to the kitchen and get some ice cream, as opposed to like their blood is now on me. Like this is crazy.
No, I'm the same way. I really am. There's something so, even if you're in a movie theater, which can be really like an overwhelming experience, the sound and everything, but like you're safe. You can like grip onto the chair and be like, everything's fine. If you're walking through it, there's nothing to hold on to. There's not like a loved one near you. You've like surrounded by terrifying things.
Nope. So yes, I'm very excited to do our interview with Alex. The article was great. If any of you guys that are listening are on our Facebook page or even follow us on Twitter, the article is actually posted on there. Definitely worthwhile. It sounds like some really cool things are happening in the indie horror world and in Essex specifically. Don't know where Essex is, but I've heard about it.
This is a great thing, is it's conveniently, like, it's a suburb of London, so it's very convenient to quite a lot of like actors and directors and stuff. So it's studio hire, but you don't have to pay London prices. So
that's cool. Yeah, that's great. Well, now I'm looking forward to both watching Ice Cream on the Beach and interviewing him, because I like to try to at least watch something that that's happened or that they've done. So you've got a lot coming up. We're trying to give you guys a variety, give all the listeners a variety of things, and also it's entertaining for us. I love talking with with people that are in that world.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so cool because they're literally doing the next thing. Their movies are the ones that are coming out soon. And so you get a chance to see where horror's
Yes.
going, not just like, obviously I've been picking a lot of movies that are sort of older. We've done 70s, we've done 60s, we've done 80s, which is
Yeah,
awesome. But it's kind of cool to see which direction horror is moving as well, which I love.
I agree. I
Very
agree.
cool.
And actually, I thought like Dan in our last interview had some good ideas about, or had brought up like the movies that are done in Zoom, like in this world,
Mm.
right? And so it's interesting to see what people take it, and then how where these people that are creating like the next movement, right?
Yeah.
So lots of good stuff coming up.
I can't wait. It's going to be really fun. But for those of you who are just watching along with us, definitely F and Secret Window are the two big ones to watch. So I can't wait. I'm so excited. It's a London horror movie I haven't seen and an American horror movie I haven't seen. So it's going to be a good double bill for me.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Well, thank you always. It's so much fun to do this
Yeah.
with Chris. Thank you.
Great talking to you.
Awesome. And thank you all for listening. We will see you for a jam-packed July. Can't wait. If you want to share your thoughts about this episode, please head to our Facebook or YouTube pages. We're grateful to Kukurbit, who made our music. Thank you for listening, and please join us next time for the London Horror Movie Club.